More than 4 years after the Costa Concordia ran aground off the Italian coast.
Imagine a ship the size of the Empire State Building blocking one of the world's busiest trade routes, costing the global economy billions in just a few days. Or a simple navigational mistake leading to one of the worst environmental disasters in history. These aren't scenes from a disaster movie. These are real events that shook the world, proving that even a single misstep at sea can have consequences beyond imagination. In today's entry, we will talk about some of the most expensive maritime mistakes that were ever recorded. Disasters are so costly they have changed industries, economies, and even international law. The tragic sinking of the Costa Concordia, the massive oil spill caused by the Exxon Valdez, and the infamous incident with the Ever Given were some of these maritime disasters which tell tales of human error, environmental destruction, and financial ruin. How could they have been avoided in the first place? Who in the end paid the price? Let us begin with a luxury cruise ship that ended up being one of the most expensive shipwrecks in history, the Costa Concordia.
Costa Cruises has accepted a €1 million fine to settle potential criminal charges concerning last year's deadly accident off the coast of Italy. But the firm still faces private lawsuits. The cruise liner Concordia hit a rock off Tuscany in January last year, killing 32 people.
What was supposed to be a straightforward cruise was during that night of January 13, 2012. But the events turned into one of the worst maritime disasters in history. A 114,000-ton luxury ship, Costa Concordia, hit an underwater rock on the coast of Giglio Island in Italy. What followed was a pure pandemonium, a massive state-of-the-art vessel being cocked onto her side while passing pandemonium for their lives. Not mechanical failure, not the weather. Human error, and a reckless one at that. Captain Francesco Schettino decided on his own to perform an unauthorized maneuver to the salute by sailing the Costa Concordia much too close to the island shoreline, supposedly to impress passengers and locals. But he misjudged the position of his ship with disastrous consequences. The ship smashed into an uncharted rock formation at high speed. This impact gouged an approximate gash of 160 feet long in its hull, flooding several compartments and causing the loss of stability of the ship. Passengers and crew rushed down to the lifeboats in panic, but the evacuation was a disaster. Schettino delayed the order to abandon the ship, and many lifeboats were rendered inoperable after the ship began to list. By the time any rescue effort began, many inside the boats were left behind. This was not only a financial catastrophe, but also a human tragedy. 32 people lost their lives, some trapped inside the sinking. Over 4,000 passengers and crew had to be rescued, some jumping into freezing water to save their lives. And survivors recounted awful moments of mayhem as dimly lit hallways flooded in a hurry and lifeboats dislodged into the sea. As if more stigmas could be attached to the disaster, Captain Schettino was alleged to have abandoned the ship before evacuation was completed, therefore earning himself the worldwide epithet Captain Coward. He was later sentenced to 16 years imprisonment for multiple homicides, causing a shipwreck and abandoning passengers. Beyond the human cost, the Costa Concordia posed a massive environmental hazard. The ship carried over 2,000 tons of fuel that could have spilled out and polluted the unspoiled waters of the Tyrrhenian Sea. Authorities were in an all-out scramble to avert an oil spill, pumping away the fuel for fear it may touch off an irreversible conservation disaster. The Costa Concordia accident was not merely a financial loss, it became an important milestone towards maritime safety, marking the dire results of negligence and poor decision-making on the high seas.
Nearly 1,000 feet long, 123 feet wide, weighing 112,000 tons, getting the Costa Concordia from the waters off Giglio Island will be one of the biggest removal jobs in maritime history. But the big question, one that may take weeks to answer, is what kind of operation will this be?
This disaster cost a lot of money, but it was unfortunately not the only maritime disaster that emptied the coffers. We will now move on to discuss just one oil spill that changed the face of the world's Exxon Valdez disaster.
We fetched up hard to ground and evidently leaking some oil.
On March 24, 1989, very early in the morning, the world witnessed one of the worst environmental disasters in history. The Exxon Valdez, a massive oil tanker carrying 53 million gallons of crude oil, struck Bligh Reef at Prince William Sound in Alaska. In less than half a day, over 11 million gallons of oil spilled into the clear waters, creating an environmental catastrophe that would injure for decades. Unlike the Costa Concordia disaster, this was not a case of gross negligence. Instead, many latent and proximate causes led to the Exxon spill. Lack of supervision, crew fatigue, and outdated safety technology. Captain Joseph Hazelwood was alleged to have been drunk, although this was later contested. The third mate at the time, and on watch, Robert K. Jarrell, neglected to maneuver the Exxon Valdez farther into deeper water. The crew, severely fatigued after long shifts, were not given adequate rest. Regulations did not provide the ship with accurate radar equipment, thus making her liable for human error. The entire series of poor decisions, combined with ignoring certain warnings, turned what could have been a minor incident into a disaster of unimaginable proportions. Oil started pouring into the ocean, suddenly and irreversibly. In just days, it spilled over 1,300 miles of Alaskan coastline, suffocating marine life and transforming once pristine waters into a toxic wasteland. An estimated 250,000 seabirds, 2,800 sea otters, 300 harbor seals, 250 bald eagles, and dozens of killer whales died from oil exposure. Thick black crude made any chance of cleaning the shores almost impossible. These fishing industries that were impacted also meant long-term damage to herring and salmon populations. Oil pockets were still visible buried under the sand even decades later as an indication of the disaster's lasting impacts. This catastrophe has compelled the U.S. environmental policy rethink and stricter regulations put in place about oil transport and spill prevention measures. The environmental devastation is paralleled by the financial devastation of the Exxon Valdez spill. $2 billion was spent on cleanup efforts, but much of the damage was irreversible. Exxon was hit with thousands of lawsuits and eventually agreed to pay $500 million in legal settlements to affected communities. The public perception of the company suffered tremendously, leading to an order to pay $5 billion in penalties that were ultimately reduced to $507 million after years of litigation. The spill caused disruptions to the local economy, most notably affecting Alaskan fishing communities, from which they have sustained losses in revenue amounting to billions since. And if you thought this was bad, we are going to talk about the trouble that caused global trade to stop for weeks. Let's talk about the Suez Canal blockage by the Ever Given.
Tonight, a major backup blocking one of the world's busiest shipping highways. The 1,300-foot-long ship called Ever Given jamming the Suez Canal that separates Asia and Africa. It became stuck Monday during a dust storm. Now, a chunk of the world's goods are at a standstill.
The world was watching the crisis unfold for 6 days, where the stakes were billions and billions of dollars every single day. In March of 2021, a ship did the impossible and turned the entire world economy upside down for almost an entire week. The Ever Given, a gargantuan 1,300-foot-long container ship, went sideways inside the Suez Canal, halting one of the most important trade routes in the world. It was not an oil spill, though. Strangely, it created a mess with huge logistics. The Suez Canal is a 120-mile-long link between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean, through which around 12% of world trade passes. Any blockade in this route will trigger a domino effect on the global supply chains. On the day of the grounding, the winds were high and visibility was minimal due to a sandstorm. It was then that strong winds forced the Ever Given, which was laden with over 200,000 tons of cargo, to veer off course, whilst moving more than the maximum speed permitted by the canals. An unfortunate combination of events brought about by human error. Even with canal pilots aboard, the complexity of maneuvering such a giant vessel in tight waters proves cumbersome. And just like that, the Ever Given became a 1,300-foot-long plug, blocking every ship behind it and bringing global trade to a screeching halt. The ensuing economic repercussions of this incident were mind-boggling. Over 400 vessels were, in effect, transiting one of the world's foremost crucial maritime trading routes, while the blockade halted billions worth of trade at a standstill. This included oil shipments and raw materials, electronics, automobiles, and consumer goods. Companies that relied on just-in-time delivery systems were shaken down into the ground, leading to some vital items falling short. Freeing the Ever Given was an undertaking of Herculean proportions. Engineers worked day and night with the aid of dredgers removed thousands of tons of sand from under the ship, and tugboats attempted to free it. The gravitational force of the moon was an unexpected ally, as high tides helped to refloat. The financial havoc had already been wreaked when, after 6 long days, the Ever Given was freed. The unblocking of the ship marked the start of a long and intricate legal marathon between Egypt and the owners of the vessel, Shui Kisan Kaisha, demanding $916 million as compensation, stipulating that the blockage by Ever Given inflicted considerable financial losses and operational setbacks. Part of the claim is lost revenues from the toll fees due to hundreds of ships that were either delayed or made to take significantly longer routes. The cost of the entire operation in rescuing the vessel from the rearing tugboats, dredging ships, and excavation teams that worked tirelessly through the night. Physical damage to the canal itself as an effort to refloat the vessel had widened the waterway and damaged the banks of the canal. Negotiations took months, and the settlement was never made public. The amount was, however, far below Egypt's original ask. An alarm had been sounded by the Ever Given event. One ship could block global trade. It revealed that bottleneck trade routes could paralyze countries and push them to rethink supply chain security. Finally, it has been shown that even today, a single error in the sea can cost billions. Taking into account all 3 cases of environmental disaster, the Costa Concordia, Exxon Valdez, and Ever Given, it's quite evident that they were singular incidents. All were marked by some commonalities. These were not just freak accidents. They were preventable mistakes leading to disastrous financial and environmental consequences. Environmental negligence from the Exxon Valdez spill. Alaska marine habitats were devastated, with effects lasting over decades. The fuel of the Costa Concordia poses a risk to the Italian coastline. The Ever Given, though it did not produce pollution, affected global supply chains with adverse impacts on industries worldwide. Each of these disasters forced the maritime industry to evolve and thus enact stricter regulations and better safety measures. Stronger navigation and training standards. Legislation of double-hull tankers requiring oil spill reduced risk following the Exxon Valdez incident. Better crisis. Costa Concordia forces increased safety drills and emergency response protocols, more efficient ship tracking, and AI facilitation. The incident of the Ever Given compelled more route planning and automated navigation, as well as stricter regulations for congested waterways. Not all inevitable high costs, these catastrophes served as constant reminders that safety, accountability, and preparedness are crucial in maritime operations. Fatal maritime accidents like the Costa Concordia incident, that of the Exxon Valdez, and those related to the Ever Given stand out as gory reminders of the fact that very small mistakes may cause losses, not just to business people, but to the whole society in terms of finances, environment, and human life. Every single such disastrous event has its unique causes. They all share a common thread of human error, safety oversights, and lack of preparedness. Thus, all these tragedies have paved the way for safer sea travel, forcing the industry and governments to standardize and tighten regulations, encourage enhanced training, and adopt better technologies. The spill from the Exxon Valdez saw mandatory double-hulled oil tankers conclusion, and the disaster of Costa Concordia compelled cruise lines to rethink preparedness for emergencies. What has been revealed by the blockage of the Ever Given is an inherent weakness in the operations of global trade logistics, which is now calling for improvements in the navigation of canals and responses to crises. History has told us that learning from mistakes is not enough. There is continual vigilance and accountability as shipping technology develops and maritime traffic increases. Whether it is better in AI-assisted navigation, stricter training for crew, or real-time monitoring systems, the industry must always be ahead of disasters before they happen. These billion-dollar mistakes change the maritime world forever, but the question remains, will we ever be able to prevent disasters entirely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Which of these incidents shocked you the most? And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because we have more fascinating stories coming soon. See you in the next one.